I stayed seated while everyone stood up clapping for Eric, and that's when Tom hit me with the worst line of the night. My name's Paul. I'm 37 years old and live in Columbus, Ohio. I've worked at the same engineering firm for 5 years, holding together projects that would have fallen apart without me. Late nights, weekends, training, clueless hires. I did it all. No extra pay, no real title, just the unspoken promise that if I kept grinding, it'd be worth it. That night, the company was celebrating its best quarter yet. They picked some swanky new steakhouse downtown, crystal glasses, leather booths, gold-plated menus. Everyone dressed like they were expecting a photo op. I had one of those quiet, proud nerves in my stomach. This had to be it. Tom, my boss, had been dropping hints for months. When this quarter wraps, things will change. You've really proven yourself. Get ready for the next level. So when he stood up, glass in hand, and said, "I want to toast someone who's gone above and beyond," I damn near stopped breathing. My coworkers looked around, a couple glancing toward me, and then Tom said it. "To Eric, you've made quite the impact in a short time." The room broke into applause. People turned toward Eric, the new guy, the guy we hired 3 months ago, the one I'd been helping on board. My stomach dropped. I clapped mechanically while something inside me iced over. Then Tom looked right at me and said, "Maybe you could take some notes from Eric. He's already outperforming you." I didn't move, just smiled tight as laughter rippled around the table. Eric chuckled awkwardly. Someone reached to refill my glass, but I didn't touch it. That moment, that slap dressed up like advice, burned. I wasn't mad at Eric. Hell, I trained the guy. But Tom? Tom knew what he was doing. He wanted a reaction. Humility, maybe. Gratitude for still having a job, something small. What he got was silence, because I already knew what I was going to do. He might have taken the spotlight tonight, but Monday morning, Tom was going to find out what happens when you screw over the wrong man. I didn't make a scene that night, didn't storm out or throw my drink. I smiled, toasted Eric when he came around with that embarrassed look on his face, and even cracked a joke about rookies outpacing veterans. It was the kind of thing people expect you to say, the kind of reaction that lets everyone else feel comfortable ignoring the elephant in the room. After dessert, I shook hands, said goodnight, and got in my car. Drove home in complete silence. No music, no news. Just my knuckles tight on the wheel and the flicker of streetlights strobing across the dash. I walked into my apartment, took off my shoes, and poured myself 2 fingers of the good whiskey, the bottle I usually saved for wins. I sat at the kitchen table, stared at nothing for a minute, then opened my laptop. The email took 5 minutes. Short. Cold. Subject: Resignation to Tom Langley, CC Human Resources. Tom, effective immediately, I resign from my position at Prescott and Langley. Please consider this my formal notice. Regards, Paul Keating. No drama, no explanation, just the facts. I attached a PDF with a simple resignation letter, double-checked the CC to HR, and hit send. Timestamp 11:46 p.m. I closed the laptop, downed the rest of the whiskey, and for the first time in months, slept like a man with nothing to lose. When I woke up the next morning, there was a different kind of silence. Not the hollow kind, the kind that comes when you've stopped running loops in your head. No more thinking about who said what, no more mental rewrites of conversations that already happened. Just quiet. My phone buzzed around 8:15. Tom Langley, 3 missed calls, new voicemail. I didn't listen. Not yet. Let him sit in it for a while. I made coffee, real coffee, not the weak office stuff I'd been choking down for years. I sat out on the balcony, wrapped in a hoodie, and watched the sun crawl over the city. And I thought, so this is what peace feels like. It wasn't an emotional decision. It wasn't a rage quit. I didn't resign to punish anyone. I resigned because something shifted, because I realized I didn't owe that place another ounce of my time. What I had set in motion, that wasn't about ego. It was about control. Tom thought he owned me, that I'd sit there clapping like a trained dog while he threw scraps to someone new, that I'd take the insult and stay grateful for the paycheck. He didn't realize I already had another move on the board, and by Monday morning, he was going to see just how much he miscalculated. Monday morning, I walked in just like normal. No box, no drama, just calm. I took the elevator up to the 6th floor, badge still working, said a casual morning to Grace at reception, and walked straight to my desk. I sat down, opened my laptop like it was any other Monday, and sipped from the thermos of real coffee I brought from home. 10 minutes later, Tom's door burst open like someone had set it on fire. Paul, my office, now. He was holding a printed copy of my resignation. It was slightly crumpled, like he'd been clutching it for hours, waiting to pounce. His face was red, like he'd been yelling already. I stood, calm as a surgeon, and followed him in. He shut the door behind me and turned fast. What the hell is this? He waved the paper in my face. That, I said, taking a seat, is my resignation. Effective immediately. His voice cracked halfway through. You didn't even give notice. Didn't see the point, I replied. No hard feelings, right? He scoffed. No hard. Paul, come on. You're one of our senior guys. You don't just vanish in the middle of Q2. This is childish. I raised an eyebrow. Childish? Yeah, look. He sat down across from me, tried softening his tone. I know Friday didn't go how you expected, but the director decision wasn't personal. Of course not, I said flatly. It was strategic. Just like this. He stared at me for a second, trying to find the angle. We need you here. No one knows the Vectra account like you. And the new hires, hell, Eric still asks you what time the printer resets. That's unfortunate, I said, but not my problem anymore. Paul, he said, suddenly dropping the manager voice, let's talk about this, really. I leaned back, arms folded. Sure, let's. He shifted in his seat. Where are you going? I smiled. Andrew Carter. His whole face twitched. What? You remember him, I said. Your former CFO, the guy you forced out last year because he pushed back too much, the one you replaced with your old college buddy. You're joining Carter? He asked, like the name had physically struck him. Already accepted the offer. VP of Operations, full autonomy, competitive package, and one hell of a mission. His mouth hung open. That's not possible. Andrew's company barely exists. It's a startup. You're trading stability for what, a gamble? No, I said. I'm trading smoke for fire. That place is being built. This one, it's just being babysat. Tom slumped back, the weight of it starting to land. He reached out to you? No, I said. I reached out to him. Tom blinked. Last fall, after you passed on Carter's expansion proposal and threw him under the bus in front of the board. I figured it was just a matter of time before he did something on his own. You, he started, then stopped. You were planning this? Not planning, I said. Positioning. The silence in that room felt heavy, like the air had thickened. I coached Eric because I knew you'd pick him. You wanted someone easier to shape, someone who didn't challenge you. So I let you think I was staying put. Tom stood up, walking a short circle behind his desk. This is a mistake, he said almost to himself. You're burning bridges. No, I said, I'm just done carrying yours. He turned one last time, face hard. You really think Carter can pull it off? I stood. I know he can, and more importantly, he wants me to help build it, not just polish his legacy. Tom didn't answer. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and by the way, I said, you might want to check who else is watching the exits this week. His eyes widened just a bit. Then I left. No slamming doors, no raised voice, just the quiet click of power shifting. I walked back to my desk, forwarded the resignation email to the senior staff. No speech, no announcement, just hit send and started packing my things. Not because I had to, but because I wanted that moment, that clarity. The reaction was almost instant. A few heads popped up from behind monitors. Tyler from compliance peeked over his cubicle wall like a meerkat. A soft, surprised, holy sh! Came from someone behind me. I think it was Jasmine from operations. Rachel from finance, one of the few people I genuinely liked, came over with wide eyes. You actually did it? She asked in a half whisper like we were sharing state secrets. Yep, I said, zipping my laptop bag. Time to move on. She hesitated, then reached out and gave my shoulder a squeeze. Good for you. Rachel wasn't fake. She never played the politics. She just worked hard and saw things for what they were. As I looped the strap over my shoulder, I caught Eric from the corner of my eye. He was standing at the coffee machine, pouring decaf into a company mug. When he noticed me looking, he froze, then quickly turned back around. He wouldn't even look me in the eye. I wasn't mad at him. The guy was just a pawn. But he knew. Somewhere deep down, he knew he got dropped into the spotlight on a foundation I built. As I headed toward the elevators, I pulled out my phone. New invite, Tom Langley. Quick touch base. Subject line, reconsidering options. Urgent. Time, 4:15 p.m., location Tom's office. I let out a breath and laughed under it. Of course. He wasn't done yet. I hit accept. Not because I needed anything from him, I just wanted to see how much he was sweating. The rest of the floor buzzed with quiet chatter, people trying to piece it together. Did you hear? Wait, is Paul actually leaving? What does this mean for the Q2 launch? I walked out like I was heading to lunch, gave Grace at the front desk a small nod, and rode the elevator down alone. Outside, I stood on the sidewalk, letting the warm air hit my face. I didn't feel nervous or triumphant, just free. The building behind me, it already felt like the past. Rachel texted as I was halfway to the parking lot. Rachel, Tom looks like he's about to throw up. You broke the system. I smiled. Not because I wanted revenge, but because for once they were the ones scrambling. He thought I was a fixture, a safe bet, the guy who wouldn't leave. What he didn't understand was, once I knew I was never going to be truly valued there, I stopped playing their game. And the worst part for them? I didn't have to slam a door. All I had to do was walk through it. I walked back into Tom's office out of curiosity, not need. He looked rough. His hair was a little out of place, the kind of messy you get from running your hands through it too many times. His collar was wrinkled, the top button undone. There was a half-empty energy drink on his desk, a brand I'd never seen him touch before. He stood when I walked in, fake smile loaded and ready. Paul, glad you came back. Just wanted to see how this plays out, I said, taking a seat like I owned the room. Tom didn't sit right away. He paced a little behind his chair, like he was trying to find the right tone. Listen, I know Friday didn't come off the way it was supposed to. You've been a huge part of this team. I waited. I think we made a mistake, he continued. A real one. Eric's got potential, sure, but we moved too fast. That's on me. I almost laughed. Not at what he said, but how late it came. We're willing to fix it, he said, finally sitting down. Match whatever Carter's offering. Title bump. Full autonomy over ops. You want a direct line to the board? Done. You name it. That caught me off guard for about half a second. Because just a week ago, I couldn't even get him to confirm I'd be leading the next launch cycle. Let me get this straight, I said. You're offering me everything I asked for now that I'm already gone? He leaned forward. You've got to understand, this place moves fast. Decisions happen in real time, but we can course correct. You're valuable, Paul. Valuable. I shook my head slowly. You didn't care about any of that until I left. That's not true, he said quickly. It's just, sometimes leadership misses the forest for the trees. You've always been the guy who kept things steady, reliable. That can make people overlook the scope of what you're really doing. Until they lose it, I added. He hesitated. Exactly. I looked around his office, the one I used to think I'd earn someday. The fake awards on the wall, the desk that always had some client file open like he was still hands-on. It was a set. A prop stage for a guy who liked playing boss more than being one. You're walking away from stability, he said, switching gears. For what? A gamble with Carter? You think that's going to be better long-term? I smiled. I don't know, but I know what staying here looks like. Look, he said, getting a little desperate now. I'll give you my word. We'll put it in writing. Promotion, raise, the whole package, and we'll announce it to the staff Friday. Make it official. I leaned back, crossed one leg over the other. I'm not here to negotiate, I said, steady and low. I'm here so you can watch the door close. Tom's face tightened. Paul, I spent 5 years trying to earn respect here. Took every bad project you threw my way, stayed late, cleaned up messes I didn't make, and you only noticed once I was out the door. He looked away, jaw clenched. I'm not angry, I added. I'm done. He rubbed his temple like he had a headache forming. I made a mistake, he muttered. I stood. You did, but you didn't admit it until the damage was done. Tom didn't follow me out this time. He just sat there, slumped in his chair, watching the one person who kept the gears turning walk away for good. My first day at Carter & Associates, the place felt alive, like something being built, not babysat. The office wasn't fancy, no glass walls or espresso bar in the lobby, but it had energy. People moved with purpose. Conversations buzzed with ideas instead of small talk about whose turn it was to bring in bagels. Andrew Carter greeted me in person. No assistant, no PR smile, just a handshake and a genuine "glad you're here, Paul. We've got work to do." He handed me a stack of binders, strategic plans, client portfolios, internal proposals, and said, "You're running this." That was it. No red tape, no political vetting, just trust. I spent the morning in back-to-back meetings. Heck, but not one of them felt like a waste. People actually listened when I spoke, not out of obligation, but because they wanted my opinion. Questions weren't laced with hidden agendas. Feedback wasn't a trap. Around noon, someone from ops offered to grab me lunch. I said I'd just tag along and pay. We walked to a food truck down the block, and I realized I hadn't taken a proper lunch break in almost a year. By the time I got back to my new office, an actual office with a door, not a glorified cube, my head was spinning, but in the best way. I set my lunch down, cracked open the top binder, and just sat there for a second, taking it in. The light coming in through the window, the buzz of people solving real problems, the quiet confidence that I was somewhere I actually belonged. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Valued. Then my phone buzzed. Rachel. Text. "It's chaos here. Just thought you'd want to know." I stared at the screen, not quite smiling, but something close. Rachel never had to say much. Just like that, I knew exactly what was happening back at Prescott and Langley. Eric wasn't ready. Tom was probably flailing. People were realizing who had really been keeping things afloat. I tapped back. "Appreciate the heads up. Hope you're doing okay." She replied with a thumbs up and a "might not be here much longer." I looked around my office again, then back at the stack of work in front of me. It wasn't going to be easy. Carter's team was lean, and the goals were ambitious. But for the first time in a long while, I felt like my work would build something, not just patch holes. And I didn't need anyone's permission to lead anymore. The old place? They could scramble. They could chase titles and scramble for backup plans. I had already moved on. And this time, I wasn't looking back. Rachel kept me updated. Not every day, not even every week. But once in a while, I'd get a short message that told me everything I needed to know. Eric's cracking. Tom's throwing fits again. Board is asking questions. 3 weeks after I started at Carter & Associates, she texted, "3 clients have asked if you're still with P&L. I didn't need to guess which ones. They weren't with the firm because of the name. They were with us because of me. I'd built those relationships from the ground up, nurtured them through late nights and fire drills." Then one morning, my new assistant knocked lightly on my office door. "Dawson & Co. is on line 1, she said. "They asked for you directly." I blinked. Dawson & Co. was huge. One of the legacy clients I used to manage. High maintenance, high budget, and high impact. I picked up the phone. "Paul Keating," I said. "Paul," came the familiar voice of Alan Dawson, the CEO himself. "Heard you made a move. Didn't realize it until a few of your emails started bouncing." "Yeah," I said. Decided it was time for a new challenge. "Well," he said, chuckling, "guess what? So did we." I sat up straighter. "We want to move our business to wherever you are," he continued. "P&L hasn't been the same since you left. The guy they put in your place, Eric, he's not you." I didn't say anything. I let the silence do the talking. "We don't want to waste time training someone else. You already know our systems, our quirks. You kept us running. So what would it take to shift the entire contract over to Carter's firm?" My fingers drummed lightly on the desk. "We can set up a transition call this week," I said calmly. "I'll loop in Andrew." "Perfect," Alan said. "Glad we found you again." When I hung up, I just sat there for a second, staring at the phone. It wasn't about revenge. I hadn't contacted a single client. I hadn't whispered a word about leaving, no shady poaching. But they came anyway. Not because they hated Prescott and Langley, but because they trusted me. By the end of that week, 2 more clients had reached out. Nothing dramatic, no bad-mouthing, just a quiet shift in loyalty. The clients weren't loyal to the company. They were loyal to the person who showed up. Eric, according to Rachel, had started missing deadlines, mixing up deliverables, blaming internal confusion and asking for deadline extensions that would have made me cringe. The board, she said, was officially concerned. "Tom's snapping at everyone," she wrote. "People are tense. No one's stepping up. It's like no one wants to be noticed now." I didn't gloat. I didn't throw it in their faces. But deep down I knew I didn't have to destroy the place. They were doing it all on their own. And every new client email, every referral, every word-of-mouth transfer, it was just one more reminder that what I built had value. Not because it belonged to a firm, but because I made it work. And now, that value was mine to carry forward. not theirs to claim. Friday, I got an email from Tom. Subject, a proposal. I stared at it for a minute before clicking. Just one line inside. Available for a short meeting Monday at 10 a.m.? No explanation, no pitch, just that. I replied with a single sentence. Sure, I'll swing by. I didn't need the meeting. I had no reason to step foot back in that office. But something in me wanted to see it, to stand in that room again, not as a ghost chasing a promotion, but as the man who walked away from it all. Monday morning, I wore a navy sport coat and jeans. No tie, no effort to impress, just enough polish to remind him what he lost. The receptionist gave me a surprised smile. Hi, Paul. Didn't expect to see you. Just a quick visit, I said. Tom's assistant met me at the door. He's ready for you. When I walked into that same office, the one where he dismissed me with a backhanded comment just weeks ago, it felt different. Smaller somehow. Tom looked worn out, unshaven, eyes bloodshot. His desk was messier than I'd ever seen it. He stood, extended a hand. I shook it, but kept my expression flat. Thanks for coming, he said. Your email said a proposal, I said, sitting down without waiting. Let's hear it. Tom took a breath. I'll be straight with you. We're prepared to offer you executive director, full control over operations, 6-figure raise, your pick of staff, no strings. I didn't blink, he went on. You'll have the authority you always deserve, direct line to the board. Carter can't give you what we can. I smiled, not out of amusement, just the quiet irony of it. You could have offered all of that a month ago, I said. Why now? Because we made a mistake, he said, leaning forward. Eric wasn't ready. You were. That's clear now. And it's not just about you leaving. It's about what's happening since. Let me guess, I said. Clients are nervous. Deliverables are late. Staff's losing trust. He didn't respond, which told me everything. You think throwing a title and a paycheck at me fixes that? I asked. We're trying to make things right, he said, softer now. You were instrumental here, Paul. We can't pretend otherwise anymore. I stood slowly. You know what the problem was, Tom? I said. You saw value only when it walked out the door. He started to respond, but I raised a hand. And you didn't just overlook me. You humiliated me in front of the whole team. Maybe take notes from Eric? Remember that? Tom looked down. I walked toward the door, then stopped, turned. Maybe next time, I said, staring straight at him, take notes. He didn't speak. I walked out. No follow-up emails, no counteroffers, just the echo of everything he could have had, and now never would. Carter and Associates kept growing. By the next quarter, we'd landed 4 more major clients, 3 of them referrals from firms I used to manage back at Prescott and Langley. Our team doubled in size. We moved into a bigger space, added new leadership roles, brought in real momentum, and I didn't have to chase it. It just came. One quiet Friday morning, I was wrapping up a call when my phone buzzed. Rachel. Tom's gone. Board forced him out. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. Investors pulled support. Morale tanked. Eric quit 2 weeks ago. Lisa got promoted but didn't last. They're scrambling to hold it together. I didn't reply right away. Just sat with it. Let it settle. Tom was out. The man who once told me to take notes was now the one with no seat at the table. And I wasn't even trying to sabotage them. I never badmouthed the firm. Never reached out to their clients, never asked anyone to jump ship. I just left. And without me, the quiet fix-it guy, the one who held things together when no one else wanted to, they unraveled. They didn't collapse because I tore them down. They collapsed because they never realized what I was doing until I stopped doing it. Later that afternoon, I stood by the window of my office, watching the city stretch out below me. Teams on the floor were laughing, walking back from lunch. There was a hum to the space, that rare blend of challenge and excitement. Andrew popped his head in. New prospect wants to meet next week. Said they heard about how you turned Dawson around. You up for it? Absolutely, I said. He nodded, tossed me a pack of sticky notes. Try not to build the whole company in a month. I laughed. As he left, I sat back down and opened my notebook. I wrote one line at the top of the page. They only notice when you're gone. And for the first time in years, I wasn't frustrated by that. I was grateful, because walking away, that's what gave me everything they were too late to offer.